everyone. Welcome back to our latest episode of the Hilltop. We have another Chaminade Legend with us today. This is a gentleman that Tom Fernandez described as a true Chaminade gentleman, a model of Estovere, and just a really good guy. That is Jim Prag. Just clarified, Prag is in rag, right? Is how we say it. So Jim, thanks for being here, and welcome back to campus.
Thank you. I have to pay Tom Fernandez off for that.
For the nice quote. Yeah. Exactly. I usually like to get a perspective of somebody who knew the guy and or the woman. Yeah. And in your case, Tom had some nice words to say in that way. So we were just talking before we started recording. You've been gone since 2010, right?
Correct. And
but you get back to campus occasionally?
Once or twice a year. I kind of stop by and try to keep track as the dwindling number of people that I still know here, but
sure.
It's always fun to come back. My car today coming in wanted to go to my old spot. I had to pull it back into an open spot.
Exactly, corrected too. So yeah, because you spent many years here, right? About 40 total, is that right?
Just about 39 and a half.
Gotcha. Just shy of 40, right? We'll get into it because you had a couple different stops here, right?
Yes.
That you were there, so we'll get into that as we go. But as we usually follow on these podcasts, I like to start at the beginning. So give us some early days life of what Jim's life was like. Are you lifelong St. Louisan? Did you grow up here?
Lifelong South City boy.
All right, South City. We have a lot of those, right? There's a lot of those on our podcast that we have around here.
Around Cronlet Park, and grew up there and moved, like most South St. Louis people, a whole block away from where I grew up.
Gotcha.
And
then you're still there today?
No, my wife and I just moved to Friendship Village Retirement Community about 3 years ago now.
But you had been living in South City that whole time?
South City, right on Holly Hills,
all the
close
time.
to the park.
Very good. So what was young Jim like? What were some of your hobbies? What were you doing running around the neighborhood? What were you into?
Well, the world was very different then. Lots of pickup ball games up in the park. You get 5 or 6 guys together, go up and play. And when I was younger, I'd go fishing, make my own dough bait, go up in the lakes and fish, be there all day. Parents had no idea, when you were coming back. They didn't care. It was just a different world then, but it was a wonderful time to grow up.
When the street lights went on, that was your cue to be home, maybe.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
exactly. You mentioned fishing. I know you're a lifelong fisherman, right? And has a fishing crew here from Chaminade, some of the Chaminade legends that we've already heard about that, and maybe we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go on.
Sure.
Well, talk us through your education. Where did you go to elementary school and then
went
in high
to
school?
St. Stephen's Proto-Martyr in South City, all kindergarten through 8th grade. Then went to St. Mary's High School. Still a loyal Dragon.
Great.
It's a good place. They're really rebounding and they're doing pretty darn well. I'm very happy to say it. I'm still a little bit involved with that.
Oh, wonderful.
And then they got some neighborhood projects going on where they're rehabbing homes and trying to get first-time home buyers called St. Joseph's Housing Initiative, and it's a good place. That was the high school, and then at the last minute before I was set to go to SLU, at the last minute, I don't know, it's like St. Paul, I was knocked off my horse and decided to go to the Marinus Novitiate, and up in Galesville, Wisconsin, where it's ice cold, 30 below zero. I was in charge of the boiler in those days, putting coal into it, and I remember that. Good time too. I was in with the brothers there for novitiate 1 year, and then after a novitiate year, they call it, you do a scholasticate year and then 3 more years of formation, and that was down in San Antonio, St. Mary's University.
So what, at St. Mary's and then, ultimately through your time there, what sort of drew you to the Marinus? How'd you get that calling?
I'm involved at St. Mary's High School with a guy named Brother Jerry Gagg. He's still alive. He's not a Marinus, but he's in his 90s now. He had an art club. Really, it was they did everything, dances and decorations, and there was a really good, solid core group there. And we got to know a bunch of the brothers, and we stayed late after school, and it was just the atmosphere, their community spirit, which is still alive and well, although there are fewer of them.
Sure.
That kind of sucked us in. And I came from a very good family with, my brother was a Jesuit, and so I kind of had to religious connection, or the Christianity values, whatever you want to call them. And I just kind of wanted to keep doing some good, and that seemed like a good way of doing it. And I didn't want to go to Vietnam. No, I didn't. I'm just kidding. That had nothing to do with it.
But it was right at that time, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that's
what,
that was on the horizon potentially.
Yeah.
And you mentioned sort of, you got, like St. Paul, you got thrown off your horse. What was that change, or why SLU, and then why the change?
It's hard to put words into that. I had a really nice girlfriend that I was going with, and I was a senior, and there were a bunch of guys from St. Mary's who had signed up to join the brothers. There were about 7 of them, and I had no inkling. And this, after graduation from high school, I went up to St. Mary's, and I saw 7 guys in a room talking to somebody, and I said, "What are these guys doing?" And they said, "Well, they're preparing to go to the first year novitiate of the brothers in Galesville, Wisconsin." Oh, okay. What about my business? On the way going home, I was walking down Crownland Park, Holly Hills Avenue, and something said, I really like my girlfriend. But something just pulled me a little stronger than that. And I said, let's give it a try. They didn't know I was coming. At the last minute, they gave me all kind of psychological tests.
Gotcha.
And this was in August, and they left for the novitiate in August.
I was going to say, it's usually a process, right?
Yeah.
You don't just sign up and the next day you're gone, but
they kind of knew me. They knew me pretty well. I was involved in stuff at St. Mary, and they kind of pushed me through the process. And I ended up jumping on a train on August the 5th, I think it was, the day Marilyn Monroe died.
Oh, wow.
Had nothing to do with me. She wasn't pining.
You had an alibi.
And went up to Galesville and spent a year there. And
how'd your girlfriend take the news?
She wrote me letters under a man's name.
Oh, really?
So we could kind of keep communicating.
Wow, that's interesting. Because they would have checked your mail?
Yeah, they checked your mail in the
Wow.
They did all kinds of stuff, and there was there was no TV, no magazines. You were that first year. You were totally.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. Can you describe for our audience and for me a little bit more about what is that first year like, especially?
It's strictly just knowing yourself, trying to getting used to silence a little bit. There were like classes of what Marianist history was like.
But it wasn't like regular college. You weren't having normal sort of academic classes.
We had rec time. We had work hours. We had some classes on history, and it was just Marianist formation.
Gotcha.
And after that first year, you took what they call first vows or preliminary vows, and then you went down to San Antonio for your regular college stuff. And we got through college in 3 years because we went all year round, and we ended up getting our bachelor's degree in 3 years since I graduated, in '66 from St. Mary's with a degree in social studies. And then
so how many guys approximately were, say, in your class in those days?
In the novitiate, we started off with 50.
50. That's awesome.
We ended up with 14 or 15.
Wow.
A lot of weed outs.
Yeah.
A lot of people didn't know why they were going to begin with.
Sure.
I just kind of adapted. I it was fine. I liked it.
Went with the flow.
Yeah. And it was a big weed out process. And so we went up to St. Mary's in San Antonio with about 15. There are 2 left at the present day today. Good guys. I know both of them. I'm in contact with a guy named Brother Larry McBride, who I work with here at Chaminade.
Yeah, I recognize that name.
In the dorms. He and I were dorm prefects for a while, and good guy. He loves working in India, and so that's kind of how that process took place.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So was I know at that point, and even still today, brothers are doing all different kinds of things. It's not just teaching. Was teaching, was education always kind of your thought of what you might do with your career or your time?
I don't like ritual and stuff, so becoming a priest had no thoughts at all for me. Working brother, I was pretty good with my hands and stuff. I toyed with that a little bit, but I kind of liked the idea of working brother were more by themselves sometimes, doing maintenance and things, and I focused more on being involved with the kids in school and teaching kind of became the way of doing that and coaching and stuff
Sure.
like that.
So you finish your 3 years, but you finish your undergraduate degree basically at St. Mary's. What's the next step in that process for the Marianists? Kind of little Marianist background education for our audience here.
Then they decide to ship you off to one of their institutions. They never sent you back to your alma mater, except for me. I went back to Southside, St. Mary's High School my first year. You know, just like being at home because my relatives and friends, they're all there.
And you'd only been out for 4 years. It was,
easy transition. My first year at St. Mary's, did a little bit of coaching, learned a little bit, taught religion. Then they interview you toward the end of the year and ask you how you're doing, what you want, and what their needs were. They say, we're kind of looking for somebody to be a prefect. Hey, that sounds kind of cool. Little did I know.
Watch out.
24/7 job,
Yep.
7 days a week.
Right.
And I said, okay, I'll do that. Boom, the next year I was out of Chaminade.
So you just spent 1 year at St. Mary's?
1 year at St. Mary's.
And just, again, kind of behind the scenes, do you have any input on where you're going, or they'll just ship you anywhere in the country?
Not in those days.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the military.
And so how do you think you got the lucky straw to go back to your alma mater? Just pure chance?
I don't know. I guess they trusted me that I wouldn't screw around with my old buddies.
Sure.
I don't know. It just, there also the need that needed to be filled at St. Mary's with a theology teacher, maybe. I don't really know.
Sure.
But I wasn't, I was low on the totem pole.
Exactly. But you sort of drew the good straw, I guess,
It was fun.
And were you, in those days, were you living at St. Mary's, or was there a community somewhere else? Or?
No, it was the old, St. Mary's was just in the process of well, they just built a new building. The old building that tore down, and they built a new building, and that was the first year that the building was in existence. And I lived in the third floor or fourth floor, whatever it was the brothers' residence at St. Mary's, and that's where I lived.
Gotcha.
With the whole large community of brothers.
Yeah, about how many were living there at that time, do you think?
Oh my goodness, probably 25.
Gotcha.
30.
Just at St. Mary's
Yeah,
alone.
they had hardly any lay people.
Right, you were still mostly...
Just count the lay people on your hand, just like next year when I came here.
Same story.
I don't think there were more than 5.
And what year was this?
I came here in 67, 68 school year.
Gotcha.
And there were just Don Ohms, who else was a lay person? I don't know if Wally Risch was here yet, I don't think so. Ken Scheibel was a band director before Bob Schmiehausen. And just a few others.
Just less than a handful.
It's a totally different
It is for sure.
world.
For sure.
That's, I guess I was in that whole transition from Chaminade being a multi-brother religious institution to multi-lay person. I kind of went through that whole process.
Yeah, I want to talk about that transition a little bit more as we go along, but I always like to ask folks, maybe it's a little repetitive for some of our listeners, but for folks who are teaching, do you remember like the first day, the first week, those first days that you're standing in front of a room of students, you're in charge now, and in your case, you're only 4 years older than some of these students that you have. Was that nerve-wracking, exciting, scary?
To be honest with you, I don't, it's a blur. I presumed I was nervous. I think it would only be natural to be nervous. But if you prepared well and you knew what you were talking about a little bit, but being young, I was working with freshmen and sophomores. It wasn't the seniors. I would probably would have been scared of working with some of the seniors. But it worked out well. I liked my time there. The brothers were good. But up and said yes to the prefecting thing, and they didn't have many suckers who wanted to do that.
Exactly. So talk to us a little bit about that. You come to Chaminade here in the late '60s. What was dorm life like? What was the prefect life like in the late '60s?
And the prefect are all brothers. Brother Larry McBride, another brother named Dave O'Hearn, John McCarthy, who was a wonderful human being.
Heard that name again
and
as well, right?
He did leave the Ardor, but he was true blue Marianist, family spirit. He knew what it was all about. And I was in charge. Me and my brother John McCarthy had the juniors and the sophomores on the first floor of the old building. and you woke them up in the morning, you took them to breakfast, you said a prayer, went over to the dining room, which is over and you know where I guess the computer
basement
is,
basically
the basement
of Chaminade Hall,
right next to the kitchen,
right.
And you take them over there, you'd eat, you bring them on back over here again, ready to go off to school. You had to prepare your lessons. I still had 5 classes, 2 preparations, and 3 sports.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't think about it, you just do. But every minute of your day, as soon as school was out, you had your classes, you had to be back in the dorm. The kids were coming and they would be going to their extracurriculars, and you'd go to your sport if you had one, and I had a couple, and I did my sport thing, come back for study hall at 5 o'clock, study hall 5 to 6, get them over for supper at 6, supervisor recreation, or the organized fun they call it, or force fun they called it, and you had to supervise that, bring them back for the night study hall from 8 to 9:30, bedtime, you know, get them brush your teeth and be moms and so forth.
Sure.
Said a night prayer around 10 o'clock, made sure they would go to bed, you know, shush them, go walking up and down the hallway, act like you know, yell a little bit and turn the lights out, and then you go and prepare your classes for the next day, and it was all over again.
Do it all again. Sounds a very, very structured life, right? Not only for you, but for them too.
Oh yeah.
Our folks in the dorm now, certainly there's structure to their life, but you know, there's not walking them to breakfast. There's not, you know, they have a little more independence than they did in those days.
We didn't have assistant prefects either.
Right.
We had none of that.
Right.
It was just it's what you did, and you didn't think about it. We were supposed to go to mass in the morning before we woke them up. We were supposed to go over mass with the brothers, and do the community stuff, because we were kind of separated from the community, living in the dorm, and most of the time I made it. You know, you're pretty tired and didn't always make it, but it was, you try to.
Good.
And so you still want to be part of the community.
And about, do you have an estimate about how many folks did we have living here in those days?
Dorm?
In the dorms, yeah.
The dorms were full. There were probably, they had 2 in a room, too.
Right.
Many of them were. There were some singles, but 2 in a room.
Sure.
So whatever, I don't know, maybe there were 50 or 60 in Canning, and then they used Waldron Hall for the seniors.
So seniors were living in Waldron at that time, right?
That was separate. Seniors over in Waldron Hall.
So 75 to
75
you know, something like that.
Or more.
Ballpark.
And almost all of them were small towns in Illinois and Missouri.
Exactly.
Almost. It was the only time you had an international student was maybe from Peru, because the brothers had places in Peru, and maybe from Mexico, but 95% were doctors, lawyers, big-time farmers, bankers from some small town, Jerseyville, Shawneetown, Illinois, Washington, Missouri, places like that, Jacksonville, Illinois. They also did a little recruiting in the summertime, drive to the little school in those places and show them a video about Chaminade. So, that was the nature and the makeup of the
it's
dorms.
certainly a big change from today when it's majority international students. We do have some American students from local places, but but certainly the percentages have flipped there
Totally different.
in a big way. So you were teaching theology in those days mostly?
It was supposed to be religion. It was more psychology, Christian psychology. Talked a lot about how your values are formed through the mass media, what the vast majority of the media would emphasize external values as bringing you happiness, while a minority of the media, kids would do all kinds of projects, analyzing ads and pictures from magazines, and what is a real man versus what does the media say a man is, and we did a lot of that stuff, and that was the most important. That was my brand of Christianity, if you could. I was not good with Bible quotes, and that was not my style. I wasn't good with that.
Sure. You mentioned it a little bit already, but tell us more about some of your early days of coaching. You were mentioning, I think you were coaching 3 sports initially?
Well, again, that's another whole different ball game from the way it is now. In those days, you didn't have to know about the sport. They say, we need somebody to coach tennis. I knew a little bit about tennis. I could hold a racket. I knew how to do that. Yeah, okay, I'll help with that. I helped with tennis. Basketball, I played 4 years in high school, and and I didn't play college ball, but was involved with some heavy-duty intramurals. So I knew a little bit about that, and I was assistant coach to some guys. But again, I didn't know about drills a whole lot, so you'd latch on to one of the other guys and learn a couple drills, and all of a sudden you had your own team. I was mainly C team and B team. I never wanted the hassle of varsity stuff.
Right.
But the program wasn't a big deal. It was just working with the kids,
Sure.
and have somebody there to compete and make sure you had referees or whatever it was. And it was good. I had fun time at the basketball thing, and hopefully taught them a little bit. I also I did coach football 1 year. I didn't know how to put the pads on and what side to put. I had no idea. The other guy did play in high school. That was Brother Larry McBride. He told me, here, tell the kids to put their pads on right. He's a freshman. They don't know.
Right. They don't know either.
I didn't know either. So he helped me with that. And then what else? Then a little bit later on, besides the tennis and the basketball, I did in the football 1 year with Coach Kevin Brennan, if you call it coaching, and Mike Francis, I think. And then a couple years later, they asked me, hey, we need somebody to do golf. And I never played a round of golf in my life. And so you can learn. You read a little bit, and you get the kids, and you go out there and learn from some of the other coaches, and did that for 33 years.
Yeah, you got your golf shirt on here. If you're watching on video, golf, Chaminade Golf 33. I was asking before, what does the 33 stand for? Because you were 33 years the golf coach and had quite a bit of success, I think, right?
Yeah, we were lucky. Most of these kids that, I knew a good golfer when I saw one, but I couldn't make them a good golfer. Either their dads or their country club pro that they would go to. You'd see the talent there, and you'd try to pick them, keep their heads on straight, organize a little bit, and try to give everybody a chance to play every now and then. We had 4 state championships, a bunch of second place, third place stuff, lots of tournaments, and CAC championships,
right.
And then whatever, what's the
AAA
other?
now?
No,
Or MCC?
MCC. Yeah, we were always probably, if not the best, one of the best golf teams. This met was pretty good for a while.
So pretty good for a guy who'd never played golf before, huh?
That's why I call myself a moderator. I had trouble when parents would come up to me and say, hey, I heard you're the golf coach. Can you help me out with my game? I go to your golf pro.
Exactly.
I don't take any credit for teaching kids how to play the game, but maybe just to be respectful of the game and treat the other people that they were playing with.
Well, it sounds like maybe it was also, I would imagine, I'm not a golfer myself, but imagine from a golf coach is as much about psychology or sort of the idea and the player's mentality as it is about, coaching them practical things. Certainly that's part of it.
Try not to take it too serious.
Right,
and otherwise they get too tight.
Right,
and,
exactly.
Go out there and have some, it's common to go out there and have some fun. And these kids were good enough, and they had fun when they played well, and most of the time they played pretty darn well.
Do you have a couple golfers that maybe stood out as top of the top in your time over here?
Yeah. Probably, yes. There are some. Probably the one, at least in Missouri, that's most known is Skip Berkmeyer, who is, I don't know how many times Missouri amateur champion. Just a wonderful kid. Came from a wonderful family. Still a big name in St. Louis, doing all kinds of stuff. He's just a marvelous guy, and he was probably the closest to maybe going pro. I think he decided not to. A guy named Mike Sable, who won the state championship 2 consecutive years. He played college golf at Miami, Ohio. He was a real competitor, and I thought maybe he would have a chance at it. I think maybe he gave it a try too. That's a tough sport, though.
For sure.
And then there's a bunch of other guys that are just really good. Danny Schaller, Justin Haupt, Matt Capon, I hate to say names because I'm going to miss somebody.
Understandable.
Sure.
Understandable.
But they were fun groups, and I never had any trouble when we went on trips, just made sure they were in bed whatever time, and Lisa and I went to bed. I presume they stayed in bed, so when we went on these trips. But
you never heard otherwise, at least, right?
No, I never heard otherwise. Golfers tend to be pretty, they live by the rules of the game if they're good, and hopefully their life the same way. And I was lucky to be around those kids.
Good. Well, we've been talking about you so far, and you're talking about yourself as a Marianist. You are no longer a Marianist.
No.
So if you don't mind, can you talk us a little bit through that transition, or what sort of called you in a different direction from
sure.
being in the order?
I was in the Marianist from 60s, my year of graduation, let's see, 62 to 74. 62 is when I graduated from high school and then the formation and everything. But to 74 is when I left the order. There was only one female on the faculty early on in the early 70s. That was my wife, Carol Prag, Carol Heeman at the time. And we got to know each other over a number of years when she was the first woman faculty, full-time woman faculty member. And that was a tough job.
Yeah,
coming to an all-boys school, all-male faculty.
I was going to say let's dig into that a little bit. Maybe she would be the best person to ask this, but as her husband, what number one, maybe how did she end up here? And then also two, then what are maybe some struggles she faced in those days, and how did she sort of overcome those?
She at the time she was a precious blood student religious, they call them. She hadn't taken vows or anything yet, but they sent them out and worked, and then they had some formation stuff. So she was working here as a student religious for the precious blood of O'Fallon. And she loved art. She didn't take any guff from kids. She knew how to teach. She was creative as heck, and she still is. She spreads joy through her art. We live in a retirement community, Friendship Village, and she's doing stuff there all the time, putting stuff, decorating on our door outside, wins prizes for the best decoration, and she brings a lot of joy to a lot of people. Original birthday cards and greeting cards, making bracelets for people, and she also does some really fine artwork as well. All the banners that you see in the atrium, the Marianist characteristics, she did all those.
Those were her? I didn't realize that.
She did all those.
Awesome.
I remember helping her cut the wood out, but she did all the real work. But that's all her stuff. There are some also on the entrance when you come in the front door, on silk. She did all of those too. So she was very prolific here and shared her talents here at Chaminade, and still to be seen by a lot of different people. When she used to make little sport ribbon spirits for different games, Beat the Bird or whatever. And that was her and John McCarthy would do that, and they'd build up a lot of spirit. But she was very good at what she did. She seemed to be able to get along with the males, even though a couple of them would give her some hard time, but she didn't let it get to her too much. She just adapted very, very, very well and did a wonderful job.
So back to your kind of transition. So it was love that took you out of the Marianist.
Yeah, we just got to know each other well, and it's again, the way I came in was kind of last minute kind of a deal. And then, you all of a sudden you just sit there and make a decision that, maybe you just want your life to go a little differently. Family and, kids become a little, that possibility. That's a possibility. And so, you talk about it a little bit, and we just decided that's the way we want to go. So she ended up leaving, and I left the Marianist, and the rest is history.
Now, is there any pressure from the Marianists? Is there any, do they like, hey, do what you, or are they fully in support of a move like that?
I never felt anybody saying, you're leaving the ship or something like that. I've always been on good terms with the brothers. It was a wonderful experience for me, making me who I am today, a lot of it, my family and the Marianists. So I never had a bad feeling. I never felt it anyway. Right. There may have been some, who knows, but I don't.
Exactly.
It didn't make me feel like that. They just went through the process of signing the papers and
Yeah, sure.
getting out of your vows or whatever,
Right.
and then moving on. And so, quite a few of them came to my our wedding because they knew her and they knew me.
Of course.
Some of the students came, which was really cool.
Wonderful.
And so it worked out.
Did you just continue right on teaching here in that transition?
No,
I thought
no.
there was a little bit of a switch there, right?
In the minds of the administration, there'd be a conflict between Brother Prag and Mr. Prag.
Right.
So they said, no, you got to find. So I went out in my first year. I found a job at Rosary High School,
Mm-hmm.
teaching religion. That was so god awful far from my house, and so I ended up finding next year was at Villa Duchesne, which is all girls, and coming from an all boys to all girls. The girls were worried about the Florida League, and I was worried about social justice. So I said maybe this isn't. And I also wanted to complete my my counseling degree. I didn't have a counseling, so right after that 1 year at Villa, I went off and finished up my master's degree in guidance and counseling, and then did not find a job in education the next year, so I worked in construction and worked as a claims adjuster for Safeco Insurance. And then the next year I found a counseling job at St. Dominic's High School.
Oh, another
which is out
trek.
in O'Fallon.
Talking about distance, there's even further than Rosary,
Yeah.
right?
Another great school, good people there, loved it there. But then Brother Leo Will called me and said, it's been 4 years since you've been here. We could use our high school guidance counselor with college guidance counselor. Would you be willing to come back? So I guess I didn't burn any bridges.
Exactly.
And I said, well, yeah, I'll be coming back.
Love it.
And so I was lucky. I was lucky that it worked out. They had a need. I could meet the need, and so that started in '78. So '78 to 2010.
Right. So was Carol here that whole time, or
Not the whole.
did she move up?
When we had kids, which was probably '78. Then she stayed at home, raised the kids, and taught. After the kids were in grade school, she went back and taught locally at St. Mary's High School for a couple of years, but ended up staying back home more. So that's how that kind of panned out.
So why counseling? Why was that kind of the path you wanted to go? Was that what led to that?
I thought I'd be okay at it. I kind of liked being your own boss a little more than being on a schedule for this class, this class, this class.
Mhm.
I ended up working more hours probably, but you could do what you want and structure your day, what you want, or come in on the weekends and do stuff. And I kind of like that freedom, if you want to call it. And being a college guidance counselor was a little different too. Than you didn't do all the personal stuff. You just had to know the college scene, and I made a lot of friends all over the country with college folks, college admission counselors who would come here, and you build a relationship with them, and still I know some of them. So it's just a different feel, and I liked that a lot, so I kept doing that.
Yeah, what was talk us through how it kind of changed your relationship with students? Was your relationship different from when you were their teacher versus their counselor?
Good and bad. You don't get to know the students the same way a teacher in a classroom does.
I can imagine on the college counseling too, because you don't normally see them till junior, senior year, right?
Junior, senior. Well, I do a little bit with freshman's hop, just to pop in, kind of look what's coming in the future. But no, but you just don't know the kids in depth as a teacher was, back and forth every day for an hour or 2 hours, whatever it was. And it's more, with the college guy, it is more of, here are the tasks that need to be done, how to investigate what colleges are out there so we come up with a good fit. It's more education than it is listening to your problems, although you got to find out what kind of person it is as best you can, but it's kind of hard to do that in an hour or 2 or 3 over a year. So that's the difference of it. But they were both okay, and I think, it worked out for my situation, and hopefully, we started the first web page, our first, web page for college guys. We had a manual that was a big deal. They didn't have the internet in those days, no internet.
Of course.
So we got a little manual that we give to all the juniors and seniors, wrote that up and published it for the whole process, and try to give families and parents some sort of tool to help them go through what's the process.
So you certainly, as you just referenced there about the internet, certainly spanned a huge time span, not only literally time span, but change here on the campus from 67, 68 or whatever to 2010. Not only just the years, all the advancements, evolution, facilities, all that kind of stuff. What are some things that stood out to you, kind of, I know it's a broad question, but over that time about sort of the changes that you witnessed?
Well, I'm going to give a couple kudos here.
All right.
The big change would be the block system. The big change would be the house system. The big change would be laptop computer program. The big change was getting recalcitrant faculty to come up with a web page and leading people through all those huge changes. And coming up with those projects, first of all, deciding to do them, the house system for one, that was a long process, and the block scheduling. There's one person who deserves much more credit than he ever got, and that's Jim Prag, who shepherded those programs through. Not just the idea, but implementing, which is a lot harder than saying, here's a program that might work. Let's implement that program and bring people, educate the person about the Marianist characteristic. What does that mean? How is that really going to integrate in your classroom? All of that stuff is a big, big job, and trying to do it in a way that you don't step on people's toes and nudge them into getting their own websites, nudge them into laptops, and when they just hated technology. It's amazing what he was able to do, and he deserves super amount of credit for
Well,
that.
maybe you just kind of answered the question I was going to ask, but that's all right. I'll ask it anyway. What made Jim, we've heard not only from him in this interview, but we've heard his name many times as sort of a great principal, what he did for Chaminade. What made him, besides what you just mentioned, what made him a great principal?
He cared, literally really cared, not just for the students, but for the he was Don Owens was Mr. Chaminade in some ways. He went to school here. Jim's dad went to school here. He was Chaminade all true blue all the way through. He knew what it meant to be. He knew what it meant to be a Marianist. He was much more Marianist sometimes than some of the religious were. He was Marianist through and through. Guys like Mike Francis are another examples of that. They just imbued the family spirit, what it takes to carry on the charism of Marianism, even without Marianist here. Because that was another big change too, going from a predominantly Marianist faculty to almost no Marianist faculty. Maybe when I left, there were probably 3 from when that was first started with almost all Marianist. So those are huge changes that I was able to witness and see the people who implemented some of those things. Tom Fiala is another name, and I taught Kevin Brennan, I taught Gerker, I taught Francis. Mike Massa is still here today. He was one of my basketball guys, just a wonderful guy, worked his butt off and did everything he could. Used his talents better than most people ever would. And there are others too. I can't think off. I think is there Chris Marsack here now?
Yep, he's here.
He was a student. I was his guidance counselor, not a student, but and there are others. I hope I don't mean not to forget them, but
that's all right.
I'm 81 years old. I don't remember
Understandable in that way.
So that's it's those Marianist people who carried on, and I was one too, because I knew what it meant to be a Marianist. I was one. These guys picked it up through osmosis, I guess, by their education and being around the brother. And so that's probably what when you said you were going to ask me the question about Estovir, that's kind of what it is. I can go back to it again later on.
We'll come back to it in
I
just
don't
a
want to
bit.
interrupt your
That's all
knowledge.
right. No, just a few kind of other things to cover briefly. What are there any kind of stories or memories? I'm sure that obviously there's millions of memories, but that sort of stand out. A funny story, a crazy story, a shocking story. Not to put you on the spot too much, that might be fun for our audience.
Well, some difficult times would have been when some of my best friends were not here anymore, for whatever reason. Not getting into dealing with that. Not. I guess being on somebody's side versus somebody else's side.
Understand.
That was difficult, and I certainly remember that. But it's all kind of like life tends to work its way out. People see bigger pictures, understand things a little differently, and work through those things over the years. And so that's important, I think. And most of them have come back to what the real spirit of this institution is about, and it's still there. We got your new leadership, I think, knows what it means to be a Marianist, even though they may not have had that roots of their dad going here, they're going here, but they pick it up some way or other. The Marianists have been able to inculcate that into people like yourself. And
yeah, I certainly feel it. Not having been an alum myself, and having come when there was not that many vowed Marianists here, it certainly has that personality. It certainly has that characteristic.
It's hard to explain that
Sure.
charism, if you want to call it, or what makes it. And other schools got it. SLU's got it their own way. That's a wonderful institution. My brother Jebby, I had to say that. He's passed away now, but and there are other really neat high schools around here that do meet. We can't meet everybody's needs, and apparently you guys are doing a very good job of finding good fits here, just like at the college level. You try to find good fits. I think you seem to be doing that here in the middle school, in the high school, and the kids you just seem to have good kids, and it shows.
Yeah, that couple questions left for you, if that's all right. That would be one question I'd have, and just want your opinion or your advice from 1967 to 2010. Did you see much difference in who the Chaminade student was? Obviously, everybody has their own personalities and such, but was that kid different from 1967? How were they different? Can you put words to that?
Well, in the early days, even before me, oftentimes kids were sent here by their parents to get whipped into shape. Literally, their brothers will get them in shape.
Right.
Hang them out their ear by their ears, whatever, throw them against the wall, rattle the lockers, and get some discipline in them. And there were a fair number of kids who didn't want to be here, and there were some very good, but there were some who didn't. And the brother's job was, and that's an old mentality, is to whip them into shape. And that's kind of, those things were still kind of in vogue, if you want to call it, when I first started. But that's all gone. You don't whip people into shape anymore. You can't do that.
Nope.
You get sued or whatever the case. But they have the atmosphere that these kids come into, and I've seen over the years, most of the kids want to be here. They're proud of being here. It's not like they're being whipped into shape. They're trying to take advantage of it. They may not see it, but they're taking advantage of the wonderful, expensive opportunity that they got, and they seem to be catching on to that. And it's just for lack of a better word, it's a nicer kid.
Interesting.
if that's, I don't know if that's the right word or not. And that's what the Estovir is about. A man, yes, but what is a man? It's the Marianist man with the woman's touch, with a gentle part to it.
Right.
And it kind of just happens to most of them. Not all, I'm sure not, but
of course,
most of them. And I think parents are spending their money wisely. I know it puts a burden on them, but it's I think, again, I'm not involved. I've been away from it at the prizes, for almost 15 years now, and you walk into the place and there's a spirit, you still feel it.
Good.
And you still
Glad you do. So let's talk a little bit outside of Chaminade. You mentioned after you and Carol got married, ended up having kids. Tell us about your family a little bit. And
2 boys. Both of them, unfortunately, live out of town. One's in D.C., single, in his mid-40s. Does have a government job, Federal Labor Relations Board. At least he did until yesterday.
Yes, exactly. Now we're shut down. It's we're in the shutdown, depending on when you listen to this interview. But yes,
he'll get paid anyway.
Exactly.
That's the crazy system.
Figure it out. Exactly. I don't understand it.
And then he's got all kind of irons in the fire. He coaches. He referees. DC has some high-powered basketball teams. He's kind of got a reputation as being a good referee. He gets to do a lot of those DeMathis and other schools.
Very
he does
cool.
some junior college refereeing. He has a 20-team basketball league that he created of ex-college players all the way down to co-ed. He puts that, got a place for him to play. He organizes that. He, what else? He works for the Washington Wizards scorekeeping and stuff.
Wow.
And then he's got a real job and goes sailing on the weekends. So
good for him.
So he's and seems to be enjoying life. He's a good kid, wonderful son to have. The other son is married, 2 grandkids. They were just getting ready to go to high school. One just started, the other one soon. He got tired of the corporate world of medical sales and decided to start his own. He bought a franchise of bed bug removal.
Oh, all right.
That's all they do, bed bugs.
All right.
A lot of exterminators don't want them because they can't get rid of them.
Interesting.
All he does is bed bugs in Pittsburgh, and does an excellent job there, is doing well. His kids are doing well, and his wife works at a grade school there, as secretary or whatever, and she did. It's good. They seem to be doing well. So.
Did your boys go to Chaminade?
They went to Chaminade 6 through 12. The one did. The other one left after his junior year. South City and West County sometimes doesn't match.
I hear you.
And so he just wasn't comfortable the last year or two. So he ended up going to Berg and had a good experience for his senior year.
Okay.
Went to KU, did fine there.
Good.
And
how was it having them here with you? My son was here with me too. Did you enjoy that, or was it that they just do their own thing? Or
it didn't really. I don't think the kids would give them a hassle if I did something stupid or, got somebody angry at me. I don't know if they would go to my kid or say, "Oh, you're Prag's kid." Or, I don't know that. I never heard anything about it.
Sure.
But I think it worked out okay.
Good. We got a lot of that around here, and I think generally, certainly again from my perspective, I loved having my son here. He kind of was pretty independent and did his own thing, but it was just fun to sort of see him grow up in that way too.
Yeah.
So
it basically worked out well. And again, we don't see our grandkids because they're, not in town here. But that's the way it is sometimes.
For sure.
My wife and I will be having our 51st anniversary. She had some medical issues. We didn't celebrate the 50th, so in the end of November we're having the big 51st big bash at Friendship Village. We'll have
excellent.
All our relatives and
Live it
friends
up.
here and
Congratulations.
bring back Gurker and Francis and Fiala and Von Lyric. Oh, another guy I forgot to mention is Carol Howe.
Oh,
He
yes.
was principal here for a number of years. Did a wonderful. He was before that. Him and I are gold fishing buddies too. Along with Kirker and Francis and Mr. Bell.
Yeah, so that fishing group is still going strong, huh?
So, well, Steve Murphy is also involved with that.
He's hopped on board, I know.
And I've had some medical issues the last year or so, and I've kind of been a caregiver. So after 40-something years of every trip that we go down to Norfolk River or wherever, or White River, last year it was the last 2 years I had to miss, but hopefully I'll be able. She's getting a little better, so
Good.
Hopefully I'll get back in that group.
Good. I know it's a fun group that enjoys their time together, and it's interesting. I've never been certainly, but it's interesting to me sort of the years that have spanned, right? From somebody who was here in the early '60s to Scott Bell. I know he's been here for a long time, and Steve Murphy, but sort of relatively younger on the relative end of things. So
right, it's interesting group of characters. Got lots of stories.
Lots of stories there.
Yeah.
What have you been doing since retirement? You kind of covered the recent stuff. Just been enjoying the easy life, or?
I was quite a bit, even before retirement, I was involved a lot with St. Vincent de Paul and the St. Stephen's Conference of St. Vincent de Paul. and got more involved in visiting families in need and stuff for a number of years. But then since then we moved out of the city and out to Friendship Village, and I need to be at home a little bit more. I've kind of pulled away. I'm still involved a little bit with the old parish. I go in there for meetings and stuff, but not nearly as much. Other than that, Friendship Village is a tremendous place. You get involved with people there. You don't lose your old friends. You make new friends. And the old friends come out and visit you, introduce them to your new friend. It's a tremendous place. We couldn't be happier.
That's good to hear.
I'm not making an ad for them.
That's all right.
They're not paying me, but it's just perfect. You couldn't make it any more ideal.
Well, good. Well, let's get to that last question that we've alluded to before, and you've touched on a little bit. But as always, I like to wrap up our interviews with that question of what does Estovere mean to you through your experiences, through your time, through your life. What does Estovere mean to Jim Prag?
Well, I experienced it strongly a couple months ago when the class of '74 had their reunion. It happened to be the class that has Bart Costelli and Peter Bush in it, and some other wonderful guys. And they had it out at Grant's Farm, and a big people come back because of where it was, for one, at the old mansion there. And just seeing those guys together, and they love to hang out with each other still. Many of them do in different groups, even if they're out of town. They come back and I guess it's like the Marines. That's the esprit de corps. And you shared something, and that's what the Estovere kind of means. And you went through the process. You hopefully appreciate what happened to you as a result of it, your parents' life, your life they set up for you at Chaminade, and what you have developed as a father or a friend to people, and how you try to live out your whatever religion you do in Christianity or whatever you have to do. I don't know if that answers the question, but that's my Estovere it's a feeling of togetherness. I guess that's the best way.
And there's the example that you see in other people, and thank you for being that example in a number of different ways in our community, by being a vowed Marianist and then transitioning to a different part of your life and still continuing that for 39 and a half years, I think, right?
I was lucky. I was lucky to be here, and hopefully left a little behind, but I think I got a lot more than I gave. So
for sure. So you're certainly a legendary name around here. I know I was excited to meet you in person for the first time because I've heard your name for many years. So excited to.
Was anybody older than me ever interviewed?
I don't know. I wonder if you might be the oldest. I guess Carol. Is Carol younger than you?
Yeah, Carol's a little younger.
Carol would be younger.
Yeah.
He's up there. Trying to think
and
off the top of my head.
Is younger.
Kevin, but he's younger than you, right? Yeah. You might win the prize. I wish. I don't know. I'm trying to go through quickly back through my brain, but yeah, you might win the prize of our oldest guest. I don't know that I have a prize, unfortunately.
That's why some of those guys call me old guy.
Exactly. Yes, that is one thing I did. I had in my notes, or somebody had mentioned to me, Mike Francis, I believe, was, even in your young days, he said they called you old guy. Why was that? Do you know why that was? Or?
Well, probably, it probably goes, probably because of my longevity here is one, but like let's say we would go to Lake Taneycombe or we go to Norfolk, I was designated driver.
Gotcha.
So I kind of watched after them, I guess, and I would usually be the driver going down, back, and then while we were there, back and forth. So maybe I was kind of like a father figure.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Back to your prefect experience as well, too, right? The caretaker of the group. Well, yeah. Well, congratulations on maybe being our oldest guest, and congratulations on 50 years of marriage, 51 years of marriage, and thanks again for all you've done for Chaminade over the years, and for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you to our audience as well for joining us, and we hope you enjoyed our conversation today, and we've got many more great guests to come from the Hilltop.